You've been given a rest, the CEO said without standing up, without looking at me like he was reading weather. The room went quiet, not surprised quiet, prepared quiet. I waited for the rest of the sentence. It didn't come. A rest from what I asked. He adjusted his cufflinks. From operational responsibility, effective immediately. I looked down at my tablet. The logistics dashboard was still open, green indicators across the board. On-time routes, clean flow. Then the screen refreshed. Session expired. I tapped it again. Nothing. Did you just revoke my access? I said. The CEO didn't answer. He nodded once toward the wall. My phone buzzed. An email preview flashed. Your administrative permissions have been removed. So that was the order. Say the word first. Cut the power second. This system doesn't pause, I said. It doesn't rest. It runs or it collapses. That's when the door opened. She walked in like she already owned the place. Calm, measured. Heels precise. No rush, no apology for being late. This is Evelyn Hart, the CEO said. Our new vice president of operations. Evelyn didn't shake my hand. She didn't even greet me. She walked to the table, glanced at the empty chair across from the CEO, then stopped. She looked at the chair I was sitting in. Actually, she said, sliding my nameplate aside. That one will do. She sat down in my seat. I stood slowly, still holding my dead tablet. Evelyn folded her hands. We need a clean transition. You disabled the architect mid-meeting, I said. That's not a transition. She met my eyes for the first time. Sharp, assessing. Hand over the logistics system, she said. All of it. The word all landed heavy. Code, controls, infrastructure. The CEO watched the table. Legal pretended to read their notes. I felt something settle in my chest. Not panic. Clarity. I smiled. I'm afraid I can't, I said. Evelyn tilted her head. Excuse me, it doesn't belong to you. For the first time, something flickered across her face. Not anger, misjudgment. The CEO inhaled like he was about to intervene. Then he didn't. Evelyn leaned back. We'll resolve this. I nodded. I'm sure you think that. I walked out without being dismissed. Behind me, the room stayed silent like everyone already knew this wasn't over. The story you are about to hear is a fictional narrative created by the writing team at Her Revenge. It explores how power is often mistaken for ownership, and what happens when confidence replaces understanding. While the events are imagined, the dynamics are grounded in real professional conflicts, where control is assumed until it is tested. Evelyn scheduled the meeting less than an hour after I left the boardroom. No subject line. Just a calendar invite and a location. The CEO was already there when I walked in, seated to her right, hands folded like he was attending rather than leading. Evelyn didn't waste time. Let's be efficient, she said. You're no longer internal. That changes the relationship. I designed the system you're running. I replied, that doesn't change. She smiled. Tight and professional. You built a tool while you were paid by this company. That makes you a vendor, a very expensive one. The CEO shifted in his chair but didn't speak. Evelyn continued, we're bringing operations in-house. To do that, we need full back-end access by end of day. Credentials, architecture, everything. Everything isn't included. I said, you leased operational access. That's it. She slid a printed copy of the contract across the table. Sticky notes marked the margins, highlighted phrases. None of them the right ones. You see this clause, she said. Deliverables. I didn't look down. You skipped the ownership section, her smile faded. We paid you 7 figures over 4 years. Amelia, you paid for uptime, I said, not ownership. The CEO cleared his throat. Evelyn, maybe we should slow this down. She turned to him. Surprised. You agreed we needed control. I agreed we needed continuity, he said, already retreating. I'm letting you handle the details. And just like that, he did. Silence again. Always silence when it mattered. Evelyn leaned forward. Here's how this works. You give us the system. We transition cleanly. You walk away compensated. I already walked away. I said, you pushed me. Her eyes hardened. You're being difficult. I'm being accurate. She stood. The meeting was over because she decided it was. Send the access by close of business, she said. Legal will follow up if you don't. She paused at the door, hand on the frame. Don't confuse proximity to creation with ownership. I stayed seated until she left. The CEO avoided my gaze. We'll sort this out, he said quietly. I gathered my papers. You already did. I walked out knowing something important had shifted, not in their favor. The email arrived just after lunch. No greeting, no context. Just a subject line that read immediate compliance required. Evelyn had added legal, finance, and someone from corporate risk I'd never met. The message itself was brief. Provide full system access, including source logic and administrative credentials. No later than close of business today. Failure to comply will be treated as obstruction of operations. Obstruction, not disagreement, not refusal. Obstruction. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the email to myself and opened the employee portal out of habit. That was when I saw the internal memo. Operations update. The logistics system has been fully transitioned under new leadership. All departments are expected to follow updated directives effective immediately, fully transitioned. A sentence designed to sound complete while saying nothing true. My phone rang before I could process it. It was Daniel, one of the night shift operations leads. We'd worked together for years. Amelia, he said quietly. Something's off, tell me. We've got 2 outbound routes overlapping at the same dock window. The system wouldn't normally allow that. Did anyone override it? No, he said. The dashboard says everything's green. I closed my eyes. Log it, don't touch anything. An hour later, another call, then another. Small things. Timing mismatches, assignment conflicts, nothing dramatic yet. Just enough to notice. By mid-afternoon, Evelyn called a department-wide video meeting. I watched the recording later. The system is stable, she said. Voice firm. Any delays are procedural, not technical. We're moving fast, and I expect flexibility. Someone asked about back-end access. Evelyn didn't hesitate. That's handled. Another voice mentioned inconsistent data. She smiled. Growing pains. Stay focused. Confidence. Delivered like authority. Daniel called again near the end of the day. They told us to stop escalating. Said we're overreacting. They would, I said. I finally replied to Evelyn's email. One sentence. You are requesting assets you do not own. Legal responded within minutes. Our position differs. I stared at the screen. The calm gone now. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't impatience. They weren't asking anymore. They were asserting, and they were wrong. Evelyn called it a quick sign-off. She placed the document between us like it was already agreed to. 3 pages. Checkboxes down the side. A final line at the bottom waiting for my name. Handover checklist, she said. Standard. Confirms transfer of system assets. I didn't touch it. The CEO sat beside her, shoulders stiff, eyes fixed on the table. He hadn't spoken since we walked in. You're asking me to certify something that isn't true, I said. Evelyn tapped the first box with her pen. This system was developed under company direction. It was licensed. I said, operational use only. She looked annoyed now. You keep repeating that like it changes the outcome. It does. I said, just not the one you want. She slid the paper closer. This is company property. I met her stare. No, it isn't. The room went quiet. Not awkward. Calculated. Evelyn exhaled through her nose. You're refusing to cooperate. I'm refusing to lie. She leaned back. Then you leave us no choice. The CEO finally spoke. Amelia. Sign it. We can resolve the rest later. I looked at him. You already resolved it. Evelyn stood. We're terminating the agreement effective immediately. That's your right, I said. It always was. She hesitated. Just a fraction of a second. Legal will be in touch. I'm sure, I said. The CEO avoided my eyes as he pushed his chair back. Security will escort you out. I don't need an escort, I said. Standing. I know where the door is. I left the checklist untouched on the table. My phone vibrated before I reached the elevator. An automated message. Your contract has been terminated. Access to all company systems is now disabled. I stopped walking. Termination meant no obligation. No duty to maintain continuity. No expectation of support. I smiled, alone in the hallway. They thought they had just taken everything from me. What they'd actually done was remove the last thing holding me back. Evelyn held a town hall the next morning. The system is fully operational, she said, voice steady, eyes confident. We completed the transition overnight. Any issues reported are procedural and temporary. The screen behind her showed green across every panel. I watched the recording from my kitchen table, coffee untouched. Green meant nothing without flow. It never had. My phone buzzed. Daniel again. They reassigned 2 outbound runs to the same bay, he said. We caught it before collision, but it shouldn't have happened. Did the system flag it? I asked. No, he said. It approved both. Another call came in before he finished. Then another. Short, tight, careful voices. Routing delays on the North Corridor. Driver reporting stale instructions. Dispatch says the dashboard looks normal. At noon, Evelyn sent a company-wide email. All teams are reminded to follow updated protocols. Do not escalate minor discrepancies. Trust the process. Trust the process. That phrase always appeared when someone wanted silence more than accuracy. Daniel called again. They told us to stop logging conflicts. Did they give a reason? I asked. They said logging creates noise. Noise, as if the system were a rumor instead of a machine. An hour later, I received a forwarded message from someone in compliance. It was addressed to Evelyn. We're seeing timing variances that could impact audit posture. Her reply was one line. Noted, no action required. I said nothing. I didn't warn. I didn't correct. I didn't step in. Because the dashboards were still green. And as long as they were green, Evelyn believed she was in control. By mid-afternoon, a warehouse supervisor emailed Daniel directly. We're stacking trucks at the gate. No clear sequence. Daniel didn't forward it to leadership. He forwarded it to me. I read it once, then set the phone down. They wanted proof before they listened. They wanted failure loud enough to ignore the color green. The system hadn't collapsed yet, but it had stopped telling the truth. The calls stopped being cautious. A warehouse manager named Luis left a voicemail that morning. We've got trucks stacked 3 deep at Bay 4. The system keeps reassigning them to the same window. My team's doing manual checks, but it's slowing everything. An hour later, a driver called Daniel, then asked for me by name. They sent me one route, he said, breath tight, road noise in the background. Then dispatch told me to ignore it. Now the tablet updated again and says something else. Which one am I supposed to follow? Daniel patched me in after the call. They told us to trust the dashboard. Did you tell them the dashboard doesn't know what it's doing? I asked. I tried. At noon, Evelyn sent another directive. Manual overrides are authorized as needed. Do not delay shipments due to system hesitation. System hesitation. She turned confusion into personality, like the software was being stubborn instead of blind. Daniel texted me a screenshot of the operations chat. Someone had written, manual override just created a loop. Another replied, we're fixing it. A third said nothing at all. By early afternoon, Luis called again. We've got pallets sitting because the system cleared space that doesn't exist. Forklifts are waiting for instructions that keep changing. Did anyone escalate? I asked. Evelyn told us escalation creates panic. I closed my eyes. Manual overrides were never meant to stack. Each one assumed the rest of the system was stable. Without that stability, they fought each other. Evelyn joined a leadership call I wasn't invited to, but Daniel recorded it. The system is functioning, she said. The issue is execution. Follow the overrides exactly as issued. Someone asked how many overrides were active. Evelyn paused. That's not relevant. Another voice spoke up. Quieter. They're contradicting each other. Evelyn cut in. Then follow the latest one. That was the moment. Not loud, not dramatic. Just the instant when responsibility stopped flowing upward and started sliding sideways. By the end of the day, Daniel sent me a single message. They're blaming operations. I stared at the screen. They had chosen a story. Now the system was going to choose the ending. The first call came from compliance. We need clarification, the woman said. Voice clipped. Our delivery timestamps don't match physical arrivals. That creates an audit exposure. Have you been told the system is stable? I asked. Yes, she said, repeatedly. An hour later, Daniel called. He didn't bother with greetings. 3 distribution centers are stalled, he said. Not slow. Stalled. Trucks are parked with no confirmed assignments. Dispatch is issuing instructions that contradict each other. Did Evelyn approve that? I asked. She approved everything, he said, and nothing. By mid-afternoon, the tone changed. The calls weren't reporting problems anymore. They were reporting consequences. A client liaison left me a voicemail meant for someone else. If this isn't resolved by morning, We're invoking penalty clauses. We can't miss another window. Another message followed, this one from finance, accidentally copied to me. Current delays are generating losses exceeding $300,000 per day. Legal called just before 5. We need to talk, the attorney said. There's exposure here, significant exposure. You terminated the agreement, I said. I'm no longer authorized to intervene. A pause. Then, softer. Can you restore functionality? I never took it offline. I said. You removed the person who kept it aligned. He exhaled. Evelyn believes you're withholding control. I don't have to withhold what I own, I said. I just stopped correcting what you broke. The line went quiet. Then he said, We're scheduling an emergency call. I'll attend, I said. Under one condition, name it. Everyone who signed off on this transition is present. There was a longer pause this time. We'll make that happen, he said. After the call ended, Daniel sent one last message. They finally stopped saying it's fine. I set my phone down and waited. They weren't calling because they trusted me again. They were calling because nothing was moving, and the silence was costing them more by the minute. The call started without greetings. Faces filled the screen in uneven squares: legal, finance, operations. The CEO sat rigid in the center, jaw set. Evelyn appeared a moment later, camera on, posture tight. We're in a critical situation, the CEO said. We need immediate stabilization. Evelyn didn't wait for him to finish. This disruption is intentional, she said. Eyes fixed on me. Amelia has retained control and is refusing to release it. I leaned closer to the camera. You terminated the agreement. I stopped compensating for your decisions. That's not how this works, Evelyn snapped. You can't just walk away and let the system fail. I didn't let it fail, I said. You replaced the person who kept it aligned. Legal cut in. Amelia, are you willing to restore full functionality? I never removed it, I said. You removed access. You declared the transition complete. Evelyn shook her head. This is sabotage. It's consequences, I said. You authorized manual overrides without understanding their interactions. You told operations to stop escalating. You said the system was stable. The room went quiet. Finance spoke next, carefully. Our losses are approaching $400,000 today. We cannot continue like this. I agree, I said. Which is why I'm prepared to help. Evelyn scoffed. On your terms? Yes, I said. Non-negotiable. The CEO straightened. State them. Immediate acknowledgement that I retain full ownership of the logistics system, I said. A new contract granting operational access under my oversight, and removal of unauthorized directives issued since my termination. Evelyn laughed once. You're asking for control. I'm asking for clarity, I said. You already tried control. Legal exchanged looks. The CEO rubbed his temple. And Evelyn, he said quietly, she does not issue system directives, I said. Ever again. Silence stretched. Then the CEO nodded. Send the terms, he said. Evelyn's camera flickered as she muted herself. I ended the call knowing the balance had shifted. They weren't negotiating to win. They were agreeing to survive. The contract arrived before sunrise. Legal had stripped it of ceremony. No preamble about partnership. No language about mutual respect. Just terms, clean and blunt, reflecting exactly what they now understood. I read the first page aloud on the call. Ownership of all system logic, architecture, and administrative controls remains solely with Amelia Reyes. The CEO nodded once, agreed. Evelyn was present but silent, her name absent from the document. That omission spoke louder than any apology. Operational access, I continued, is granted under my oversight. No manual overrides without written approval. No internal replication. No derivative work. Legal confirmed. Those clauses are locked. Finance joined briefly to confirm the transfer. Funds have cleared, the controller said. Back pay for the remaining contract term, plus the emergency service fee. I checked my account. The numbers matched what we'd agreed to. Nothing extra. Nothing missing. Restoration timeline, the CEO asked. 10 minutes, I said. Once directives are withdrawn. He looked to operations. Do it. Daniel messaged me as the changes propagated. Conflicts resolving. Routes recalculating. Docs clearing. I watched the system breathe again, quietly correcting what had been forced out of alignment. Evelyn finally spoke. This sets a dangerous precedent. It sets a clear one, I said. Authority follows understanding, not titles. The CEO didn't defend her, effective immediately. He said, Evelyn will have no involvement in logistics operations. Her jaw tightened. She nodded once, already removed. The last signature appeared, the document locked. Anything else, the CEO asked. Yes, I said. This relationship moves forward without theatrics. You use the system, I keep it honest. He agreed. When the call ended, Daniel sent a final message. Everything's moving. I closed my laptop. They hadn't offered apologies. They'd offered compliance. That was enough. Control wasn't taken back with noise or speeches. It was restored by putting boundaries where entitlement had been allowed to roam. Evelyn's departure didn't come with an announcement, no farewell email, no transition memo. One morning, her name simply vanished from the internal directory, replaced by a temporary placeholder labeled Interim Oversight. By afternoon, operations had been instructed not to route decisions through her office. By the end of the week, the board cited unauthorized directives and preventable financial losses as grounds for termination. The CEO called me that Friday. She exceeded her authority, he said carefully. The board has imposed oversight on my role as well. I didn't ask for that. I said, I know, he replied. But it's necessary. We spoke briefly about the future, not about my return. That was never on the table. You'll continue as an external partner, he said. Protected. Independent. That was always the only position that worked, I said. The revised agreement locked the system beyond titles or internal reshuffling. No executive, present or future, could access administrative control without my explicit approval, not during restructuring, not during emergencies, not under pressure. Daniel sent me a message later that day. They finally stopped calling it the system. They call it Amelia's platform now. I didn't respond. Labels change when behavior has to. Weeks passed. Operations stabilized. Audits cleared. Clients renewed without fanfare. The company moved forward, quieter, more careful than before. I never celebrated. There was nothing to celebrate about watching people learn the hard way. But there was clarity in knowing the outcome had been earned, not forced. What I took with me wasn't a title or a victory. It was a lesson that doesn't belong to anyone. Company power borrowed from someone else is temporary. Authority without understanding is fragile. And the people who build what others depend on don't need permission to protect it. That was enough to keep